Tessa deh.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Ad America TV. Back with me, my trainer. I'm one of the guides at Ad America, and we welcome our audience joining us online. We truly hope that you are doing well and staying safe amidst this outbreak. Well, anyway, for those of you who are first timers here, hi, welcome to Ad America TV for the first time. Ad America is the U.S. Embassy's American Center. Our mission is to provide a space for young generations of Indonesia to learn more about the United States. We have temporarily moved to a solely digital platform so you can enjoy our program from the comfort of your own home and help flatten the curve of COVID-19. Don't forget to leave your questions in the comment box below, and our panelists will answer them later in this seminar. And for our friends here who are joining us through Zoom, there are a couple of features that you can use to actively participate in the seminar. You can use the raise hand section to ask your questions with your video on, or you can also use the chat box section whenever you wanted to say hi to the other participant and also the panelists as well. But please keep in mind to use these features wisely, right? Cool. Now, today we are going to have a session titled Building Strong CV or Resumes and Letters of Recommendation for U.S. Graduate School Applications. But as per usual, before we begin, we are going to have a social media quiz. You ready? Okay, here we go. The question is, what percentage of the American population has a postgraduate degree? A, 5%, B, 10%, C, 13%, or D, 18%? I will repeat the question one more time. Listen carefully. What percentage of the American population has a postgraduate degree? A, 5%, B, 10%, C, 13%, or D, 18%? You can participate this quiz through our social media comment section and stay tuned till the end of this program to find out if you got the answers right. Now, one more thing before we begin. Please don't hesitate to take a selfie and share through your social medias and let everyone know that you are having a great time with us here in Ad America. And feel free to tag us on Instagram at ATAmerica. Now, without further ado, please welcome our moderator for today, Kak Vina Latas. Halo Kak Vina.
Hai Maya, apa kabar?
Kabar baik, Kak Vina apa kabar?
I'm good, thank you.
All right then, take it away.
All right. In Ad America. So if this is your first time, welcome. Thanks again for joining in. If this is not your first time, welcome back. I would also like to say hi to everyone who is watching us from our different platform, because of course we're not only here via Zoom, but we are actually also on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We are also now on Instagram. And of course, we are in Zoom. We have a number of people start coming in here in Zoom. So if you would like to join the crowd, feel free to do that. So tonight, it's part of our monthly event. We are going to talk basically everything that you need to know about resume, CV, and also the importance of letters of recommendation. All right, so please get yourself relaxed. Please grab a cup of tea or grab a cup of coffee. And so I am going to give you a little bit of presentation just in case that this is your first time with us and you're still wondering what is Education USA? Okay. All right. So what is Education USA? We are part of the U.S. Department of State network of over 400 international students advising centers in more than 170 countries. So as you can see here, we are basically all over the world. What we do as an advisor is we provide everyone who wants to study in the U.S. for higher education level, bachelor's, master's, or PhD, or we call it here in Indonesia S1, S2, and S3. We help you guys every step of the way. All right, and we are very different. We are not the educational consultant that you've seen a lot out there, but we are very official part of the U.S. Department of State network. In Indonesia, of course, not only with Ad America, but we actually have 8 centers with 10 advisors. So we have 2 in Jakarta, two also in Surabaya. We have one in Medan, Malang, Makassar, dan Banda Aceh. So if there is no Education USA Advisor Center where you live, don't worry. You can basically reach out to any of us. All right. So our services, we provide you with five options. So we start with researcher options. If you are thinking about studying in the US but you don't know where to start, let's sit down together via Zoom, and let's have a chat to talk about some of your options. So maybe you're still, try to figure out the type of campuses, location, and what have you. We're going to talk a lot about and have a lot of discussion in step one, because I would also like to know you better, right? And then step two is financial studies, because of course that's equally important. There are a number of funding options available. A couple of weeks ago we covered about that, especially if you want to do master's or PhD, the number of funding options for you guys. And once we figure that out, we can move on to step three, which is completing your application. A lot of things going on in step three, of course. And tonight, what I'm going to give representation on is part of it, right? So we can take a look at your essay, for example. We can review your CV or resume, and we can give you some tips if you are planning to take the standardized tests such as GRE or GMAT, or maybe you're still confused the differences between TOEFL or IELTS. There are a lot of things going on in step three, right? And then once you submit everything, you got all the documents ready, you're going to basically submit to the universities that you want to apply to, and then you're going to wait to hear from them, right? And then once you get accepted, just congratulations. The next step would be applying for your student visa, and that's where we're coming in as an advisor to guide you the step by step on applying for visa. And then last step, which is prepare for your departure, is our part of our annual event where we invite everyone who basically already got accepted, and we give you guys a lot of information about informations about the first few things that international students need to do when they get to the US, how to maintain your student visa, how to open a bank account, what is the classroom experience looks like in the US, and many, many more in this event. All right. So as you can see here, we guide you on a lot of things. So meet with us. There are two advisors in Education USA at America. Again, my name is Fina. If this is your first time, very nice to meet you. And I have my colleague Santika somewhere in Zoom. She will join us later after my presentation, and then when we're doing the Q&A. We leave our email here if you want to reach us out directly. The good news is we are available for advising session 7 days a week, every day via Zoom. So we leave you the Zoom ID here. It's an open room. As long as there is no one is doing an advising with one of us, you can basically see us. We are available every day from 1 until 9 p.m. And our advising system is first come, first serve. So technically, you don't have to email us and tell us or ask us, hey, Fina, can I see you on Thursday or Friday or any day at 7:30, for example. You don't have to do that. But if you want to do that, that's fine also. But basically, I'm going to tell you that, of course, why not? But just as long as there is no one in the room, we can definitely have a chat. If I'm currently doing an advising session, I will leave you a quick chat in Zoom telling you that, hey, I'm currently on a session. Feel free to wait, or if you want to come back again later. Okay? Let's see here. You can email us first if you don't feel like you want to just jump into Zoom directly. You can email us first, jakarta.etamerica@educationusa.org. So I would like to tell you what our upcoming event looks like. Tomorrow, same time, 6:30, we're going to have a discussion with four. One of them is alumni. Three of them is current students. So we're going to have a chat with them specifically on public health programs in the U.S. Public health is one of the programs that a lot of us here in Indonesia choose to study. So if you're one of them, definitely this event is definitely for you guys. But even though you are not planning to study public health, but you are planning to probably study in one of these campuses, or you just want to hear in general their experience as an international student, please join this event. right? So we already have current students from Columbia and Emory University. They are going to join us from the US. And we have one Harvard alumni who is now in Indonesia, and one current student at Johns Hopkins University, but she's currently taking the classes online. So let's have a chat with them tomorrow at 6:30. Next week, also part of our upcoming events, we are going to talk about how to write a statement of purpose. This is basically my favorite. I think everyone starts to know about that. I love reading essay. I love presenting about essay writing. We had that last month and the month before, but we're going to have that again this month, next week. So if you have not started your US essay writing, I would definitely recommend you to join this event. I will basically I'm going to give you a presentation. I'm going to talk nonstop for an hour and 15 minutes, but I guarantee you what I'm going to share with you will be very, very informative. Okay. And then the day after, we are actually going to also have another discussion session with, this time with PhD students. The three of them is incoming PhD students. One of them is current students in the US. So we're going to chat with them and have a lot of discussion talking about PhD study in the US. For example, if you don't know that there are a number of PhD programs in the US where you can directly do PhD from bachelor's degree, so you will skip master's degree. You can actually do that in the US, and one of them is actually doing that program. So let's talk about that in the event next week. And then the following week, we also have another discussion session. Only this time is with Santika and myself, right? There won't be any presentation slides or whatever, but this is definitely a really great time for you if you want to ask us as many questions as possible about studying in the US. All right. And we're going to close the month of August by giving you a presentation about all the standardized tests, especially specifically for master's degree or PhD. So we're going to talk about TOEFL, IBT, IELTS, GRE, and GMAT in this event. All right. So if you want to know our upcoming events, you can definitely go to our website, the official EducationUSA website, educationusa.state.gov, or you can visit edamerica.or.id/educationusa. You can start registering for Zoom in that website already for all the events that we're going to have in August. All right. So let's see. So tonight, I hope you guys are excited as I am. We're going to talk about building strong CVs or resumes. We're going to take a look at how are they different, and also the importance of letters of recommendation. So I'm going to tell you that my presentation about CVs and resumes are fairly short, but it's very on point, and I hope you will learn something new. So let's agree. I like to start my presentation with this slide. Let's agree that these are the requirements that you will need to have when you're applying, right? So there are going to be TOEFL or IELTS. You're going to submit your college transcript, your CV or resume, depending on the university, letters of recommendation, and then our favorite thing, the standardized test, GRE or GMAT. Not all programs, by the way, and then we have statement of purpose or personal essay. So I don't put this list on specific orders. I just mix it up. So it doesn't mean that when I put statement of purpose as number 6, it doesn't mean that it's the least important document on your application process. It's actually the opposite. It's quite important. That's something that I'm going to talk about next week. So yeah, no, let's take a look at CV and resume. What's the difference, right? So let's start with CV. CV, it means curriculum vitae. It means course of life in Latin. So just like what it's called, it's course of life. So basically, you want to put everything in your CV. However, this is something that is different here in Indonesia, where you would basically put everything even before your college year. So we usually put junior high, even like elementary, high school, we don't put anything before university. Okay, so its course of life starts after your high school years. It's over 2 or more pages. um, Basically, with CV, there is no page limit. You can actually have as many pages as you want. So normally it's over 2 or more pages. Okay. And what's in it? It's basically a high level of details about literally everything about your achievements. And it's more than just a career history. That's why it means course of life. So basically, everything that has happened in your life, you would like to put it in there. Okay. So again, like it covers education, it covers teaching and research experience, publications, awards, presentations, anything. And then maybe now that you look at this point, you start to, concern because um, you may not have all this with you already. Like you may not have teaching or research experience, or maybe you have not, published any journals or anything like that. Don't worry. This is just to let you know if you guys have this, then this is definitely what you want to put in your CV. Okay. So also with CV, it's static. It doesn't change for different positions. So you keep adding new things in CV. So whatever that has happened in the past and you already put it in the CV, you're not gonna do anything about that, right? You're just gonna stay in your CV. But you're going to keep adding new things, okay, as time goes on, right? Um, Now let's take a look at resume. Resume, it means summary in French. I found it really interesting because how CV, it means course of life in Latin, and then resume actually means summary in French, two different languages. But so yeah, with resume, it means summary. A summary of what? Basically, a summary of what you already have in your CV, right? It's a concise document, typically not longer than 1 page. So resume, 1 page. All right. CV, basically you can go over 2 pages. It's a summary of your experience, education, and skills. Again, basically it's a summary of what you already have in your CV. The intended reader, so if you are applying to US universities and they are asking you for a resume, it means that they do not want to dwell or spend too long reading your resume. All right. The goal is to make an individual stand out from the competition. And you definitely want to adapt the resume to every position or purpose that you're going to use that document for. All right. So you want to adapt that depending on what you want to use this document for. That's it. Those are basically the 2 slides that I have talking about CV and resume. So short, very on point, right? So let's take a look now the 3 major differences between CV and resume. So the first one is the length, right? We covered that. Is the purpose and the layout. So what about those again? See here, sorry. So CV, it's long. Resume short. Remember, because CV, you're going to cover course of life, right? Resume short because it's just a summary of your CV. CV, it covers entire career. Basically, you want to put everything in there. You keep adding new things. Where with resume, you want to adapt to whichever purpose that you're going to use that document for. So because it's short, you want to modify it a little bit, right? It's static with CV, meaning that again, you don't do anything with it, but you keep adding new things, you know. But with resume, it's highly customizable because you're adapting to the purpose, right? So let's take a look at what what they look like, right? So on the left side is just like the first part of what the document looks like. So the left part is resume. The right part is the CV. You want to have contact information at the top. I don't think it's different here in Indonesia. We usually always started with contact information at the top. The color of the document. I know a lot of us, not a lot of us, some of us try to be creative. So we may some of us may have, the document with different type of color. But in this case, we want to keep it to either just white or light cream or gray, or something that close to that color. Just keep it simple in there. US letter, um, alphabet, basically. We don't have any problem with that. And keep it to size 12 font. All right. So on the left side, you see how, because we only try to make it into one page. So you definitely want to pay a lot of attention on, for example, on the contact information here, right? So you see here, Avery Black, this person makes the contact information only everything in two lines, right? And then very straightforward, education comes next, and then followed by experience, and the next part we're going to see on my next slide. Whereas on the right side here, we have Joseph tenure track. Because it's a CV, basically you don't really care how many pages that you're going to do here. So this person is just, you know what, I'm just going to put every like address that I have on one line, right? So so this person, don't really care about saving pages, right? So let's see on the second part of the rest of the document. So after education, and usually you will go mentioning your education, your working experience, and other kind of experiences. Basically, there's no um, one rule on what you can put in there. So if you happen to, you know, have, if you happen to be active in a number of volunteering or something like that, you can actually make one category, volunteer experience, or something like that. You can definitely put that in your resume or CV. And then the difference is with the CV one is this person again, you want to, you can basically go over explaining as many as possible if you want. Whereas on the resume here on the left side, you see how, so for example, like here, as a, this person talk about doing as a research assistant, and this person provided 3 bullet points explaining the job basically, and then no more than 2 lines. So you want to be quite just very concise, right? Because again, with resume, we want to pay attention to the page. Whereas on the second, on the right side, which is CV, you can basically go, 3 lines, whichever you want, however you want to explain it, right? Content in reverse chronological order, so it means it's most recent first. I don't see that as a problem, although sometimes I would read some of resume or CV not in that order. So you want to make sure that you have that. No I statements in the both in resume or CV. References at the end, you can put that on your CV. For a resume, not necessary, because we are going to use this for applying to US universities, and you're going to have letters of recommendation anyway. So you don't have to put references at the end. All right. So so this is just like what it looks in general for resume. Only one page. Looks very neat. I know for some of you probably you will think that it looks very boring, like nothing in there. I know like how with our resume here, we'll again like we like to be very creative, so maybe um make it like 2 rows, and I don't know, like when I look at it, it's just so different than this one. But I totally understand why the US resume looks like this, because now that I read a number of resume, I can totally do that very clearly here. Like I can find all the timeline on the right side of the documents, and then the category is on the left side, and then I can take a look real quick, like where did this person graduated from, and the number of experiences that this person has, right? So with CV, it's pretty much the same, but it's just a bit longer, right? And then this is what the second page looks like. You can have basically a lot of things in there. If you have published an article, or you have won awards or honors, you have any specialized skills that you want the reader to know about, you can definitely put it in there. You have some publications, some presentations that you've done. Again, you can definitely have that as long as necessary. Okay, so now let's take a look. How are they different than here in Indonesia? Who has this kind of CV or resume? Maybe not exactly like this, but obviously there is some pictures in there, a lot of information on the personal data, like nationality, we have sex, your gender, basically your marital status, date of birth, place of birth. What else? We have some people put religion in there, even hobby. I don't know. I think there's some other information in there, but let's see, how is it exactly different in Indonesia. So first of all, there's no picture. This is what makes the US CV and resumes really different, because technically they don't really care what you look like. It's quite different here in Indonesia, or maybe elsewhere, because I know in Europe they also put picture in there. But again, in the US, no picture necessary, because again, they don't, basically they don't care what you look like. No religion either. And I'm going to tell you why that is the case. I know for some of us it's quite different, because it's really common here in Indonesia that you will definitely want to know this information. But again, no religion, no marital status as well. They don't care if you're still single or if you're married or anything like that. And no other unnecessary information. If you can think of any other thing that you may have on your CV, please leave it in the chat box. Santika will be there, because I'm pretty sure I have seen some other unnecessary information on our CV and resume, which again we don't need to put it in our resume or CV, right? Um, and why is that, right? So let's talk a little bit about a history of why we don't actually put that. So there is what in the US there is what we call the Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, that says it's a federal law that prohibits employers from discriminating against employees on the basis of sex, race, color, national origin, and religion. The good thing is that what is interesting is that this Title 7 also applies not only for professional field, but also applies to private and public colleges and universities as well. So again, because this Title 7 is quite clear, that's why you don't see sex or gender in your CV. You don't see race. You don't see national origin. You don't see religion either on your resume or CV. You don't even put your date of birth. It's unnecessary. They don't need to know how old are you. Okay. So let's take a look at CV and resumes for grad schools, because I'm assuming that's why you guys are here for, right? Because you're going to use CV or resume for your master's or PhD in the US. So it's one of the documents that is quite important. I have not seen any master's degree or PhD programs in the US where they don't ask for CV or resume. They're not going to ask you for submitting both. It's always either one of them, either resume or CV. So you definitely want to pay attention to that. So again, basically CVs are used by individuals seeking fellowships, grants, postdoctoral position, teaching position. Technically, if you want to apply for master's degree in the US, graduate school's application typically requires a CV. So here, the interesting part about it is that resume is may not really that common here in Indonesia. I mean, the term resume is not common here in Indonesia. What we know the most is CV, right? However, if you have a one page of what you think it's CV, it's actually a resume. All right. So there are actually a lot of advices coming in, and they want me to take a look at their CV. That is actually a resume. They thought it's CV. They thought it's a CV because again, resume is not a common term here in Indonesia. So you may want to kind of like take a look at what you have right now. So if you can fit everything in one page, technically that what we call resume. All right. But if you have more than 2 pages, then that's what we call a CV. Now, the thing is, if you're going to apply to a number of universities and they are asking you for a resume while you have a CV, then we have some modification to do, right? Because we want to make it into one page. But yeah, again, so graduate school, typically they are asking for a CV, but in general, they might also take a look at they might actually also want to take a look at at your resume, right? So again, this is something that you definitely want to come back to the universities and really read the instruction whether or not they are asking for a resume or CV. And please don't forget, U.S. universities generally take a holistic approach to evaluate applicants. So some of us probably quite concerned about what we have currently on our CV and resume. But again, we want to make sure that you also balance out the other documents, not just paying attention too much or too long on your resume or CV. Okay, because US universities, a lot of them, if not all of them, are going to review your application holistically, meaning that they're going to look at every document. So resume and CVs can be a useful way to represent yourself holistically because again the term holistic may not be familiar, not a lot of us familiar with that term holistic. It just means basically again they want to take a look at every document that you have, but then also because they want to know you personally. And so obviously with you submitting your resume or CV, they will um, know you better, right? So again, you should adapt the resume to every position that the applicant that you're applying for. So if you're applying for, let's say, computer science, right? So if and the university is asking for a resume, so that means you want to basically make the resume about basically the information in your resume. You will want to try your best to make it very computer sciencey, right? But it doesn't always have to be like that. But if you have that computer science background before and then you want to continue another computer science on your higher education, then that's what you want to do. Okay. um so don't forget that you definitely want to review the application requirements from the individual school because they might ask you different things. In fact, I saw a number of universities where they are asking you for a mixture of resume and CV. And the good thing is they have a sample of what they want. And if they have that, then follow that sample. All right. Um, let's see. That's basically it when it comes to resume and CV. If you have other questions surrounding resume and CV that I have not covered, please leave your question wherever you are watching this from. If you're on Instagram or Facebook, just leave it in the comment or chat session. We already have our team. We'll make sure that I'm going to get that question later on after this presentation is done. All right. But if you're in Zoom, Santika is there. I'm pretty sure she has, or talking to you guys. But now let's move on to the second part of the presentation, which is letters of recommendation, because that's also equally important. So, what is a letter? What is a letter of recommendation? Right? It's a detailed discussion from the referees or the recommenders of you, personal qualities, accomplishments, and experiences about yourself that sets you apart from other applicants and shows how you are perfect for the program to which you have applied. If you're going to join my presentation next week on essay, you will realize how letters of recommendations are basically, it's almost similar to essay writing, only that it's written by someone else. It's not written by you, unlike the essay, the statement of purpose. But with letters of recommendation, it's written by the recommenders. All right. So who would usually write a letter of recommendation? It depends on the university, right? But the most common one is they're going to ask you um, for having a recommender from the academic, which is the faculty members, or basically the professors, the teachers. And if it's in the professional, that's administrators or your supervisors, or basically your boss or your boss's bosses or your boss's bosses. But basically, someone higher than you. Okay. The best letter writers are those that know you well. So I would like to repeat that again, right? The best letter writers are those that know you well and can provide an evaluation of your ability to perform and succeed at the graduate level. So we're going to talk more about who are these people, who should be the writers, who should be the referees. But let's take a look at first how important are letters of recommendation. It's required for almost every graduate school application, so pretty similar to the resume and CV. So far, I have not seen any universities that do not ask for letters of recommendation. So at some point, they always ask this document. Um, your transcript, your standardized test scores like GRE or GMAT, and admission essay. They factor in most heavily in your applications, but letters of recommendation will make a huge difference because remember the keyword here is holistic. They're going to take a look at every document, so you do not want to underestimate the importance of this letter. Okay, an excellent recommendation letter can make up for weaknesses in any of the application documents. So probably you don't have a lot to show on your resume, but you have a really strong letters of recommendation. Or probably you don't have a strong GRE score, but you have a strong letter of recommendation, right? Or you have very strong on your essays. You want to balance out everything, okay? um it will The number of letters that they're going to ask is different from one university to another, but normally they are going to ask you for 2 letters, and it depends. There are a number of universities where they don't mention anything about where the referees are from. So in that case, you can basically pick either professors or your direct supervisors, or maybe both. All right. But usually they will ask you for one from academic and the other one from professional. Another thing is you will want to make sure that each recommender will say something different, right? So I think I'm not sure if this is quite common here in Indonesia when it comes to letters of recommendation, but I think I saw not too many, but in the past where people thought that okay, my skill that I would like to show off is leadership, for example, right? And so there's someone or some people who will ask the recommenders, all of the recommenders, to basically talk about this person's leadership skills. We don't want that. We basically want to divide other skills being written by each recommender. Okay. And how can you do that? Well, you can technically be upfront and talk to them about what you're expecting them to write in the letter. Okay. But another thing that I would like to tell you is you definitely want to give your recommenders plenty of time. You don't want to ask the recommenders to write the letters and with a really, with the deadlines that is coming very soon, right? Although you will likely want to pester them, remind them and everything like that, but if you have, you know, a long time to before the deadlines, they will appreciate that. Okay. This is just something that I don't want to spend too long here, but you will realize later on when you are applying, when you are already in the online portal, for you to, basically submit everything. Usually, they are going to ask you if you want to waive your right to review your recommendation letter, or they call it VERPA. The short answer is yes. This is not like a wrong or right answer. There's no wrong or right answer, but technically you want to say yes. It's just that when you say yes, it means that um, they will assume that you are not able to read what is in the letter until you get accepted. Because what's interesting is letters of recommendation in the US, they see the letters as something confidential that you are not supposed to know what is in it. All right. So now let's see who should write the letters of recommendation. Who are these people that I should ask to write the letters of recommendation? First of all, it has to be someone who knows you well, right? Know your work and know you long enough to write with authority, describe your work positively. I think that's obvious, right? Have a high opinion of you after you share with them your plan to your, master's or PhD study. Know where you are applying, know your educational and career goals, be able to favorably compare you with your peers. They may be someone who is, well known, but again, this person has to be someone who will be able to write a good letter talking about you. All right. So you want to provide all of this necessary information, maybe not via email. I don't think that would be a good idea, but now with the current situation, probably via Zoom. But normally you will want to ask them for a coffee, and have a chat, and share with them everything, when you're going to apply, what is the program, what is the major, and so on, right? Because again, the referees may not remember everything about you, especially um, if the reference is from the academic, and let's say you have graduated for quite some time, the reference may not remember you, and you want to refresh their mind, right? So what to provide to your referees when you make an appointment with them? You can share probably not all of this, but if you want to have all of this, I don't see why not, but probably it's going to be too much for the referees. But these are some of them that you may or may not share with them. Your transcript, especially if you're probably like it's in the academic, so it's a faculty member, and then you want to kind of like, refresh their minds and just basically take a look at your academic achievements, your resume or curriculum vitae or CV, your admissions essay. Why not? If you have that with you already, you want to share with them your essay, courses that you've taken with them before, your research experience if you have one, any internship and any other experiences that is related to your study. That would be ideal. Awards that you've won, work experience, basically those that are available on your CV, but then not just, like give your CV and then let them read it, but then elaborate more on that, right? So think of it like when you're doing an interview, like a job interview or something like that. Share with them who you are, again, to remind themselves about you, and stuff like that, right? List of programs to which you're applying, to where, when, and all of that. Okay, so now the one question that a lot of us want to ask, right? The recommenders ask me to write it for them, Fina. Can I do that? The answer is definitely not. All right? You are not supposed to write the letter because the referees are. And remember when I showed you about the FERPA? Because in the US, they see letters of recommendation as something confidential that you are not supposed to know what is in it. If you're not supposed to know what is in it, you are not supposed to know, like, you're not supposed to write it. Okay? But then a lot of other questions coming in. But Fina, they're busy and stuff like that. So I list some of the excuses that, if you may say that. Basically, if the referees refuse to write it themselves, so you want to explain it to them because it's very common. It's too common in Indonesia that when you ask them, Pak, Bu, do you mind writing me a letter of recommendation because I'm applying to your universities? And then they will be, of course, please just write it and then give it to me. And then you will want to explain it to them about, just tell them that you attend this presentation from Education USA and that the advisors mentioned that I'm not supposed to write it as the applicant. And then if after you explain it to them and they still refuse to write it themselves, maybe it's time to find other referees, right? And then another thing, if the referees ask you to write it for them, again, you are not supposed to say yes. But then again, you also want to elaborate. So it's a really great thing that you're joining this session so that you know the reason why. All right. If they are not, if they give you a reason, the reasons why they don't want to write it or they're not able to write it is because they're not capable in writing in English, you can say to them that don't worry, and you can offer your help to find them sworn translators. I know it sounds weird, right? But trust me, I have checked this with a number of admissions committee in the US. The thing is, guys, especially when it comes to graduate study, it's they are very decentralized, and the way they review the applicants is again very holistic. They want to know you on a very personal level, including the letters of recommendation. It's called it's called a letter of recommendation for a reason. It's a letter. It's not supposed to be an academic paper. It's not supposed to be an essay. It's a letter for the university, right? So they will totally understand if the referees are not capable in writing it in English, and then you have both documents into different languages, in English and in Bahasa Indonesia, right? And then the referees can explain it a little bit on why there are two, um, documents, although it has the same meaning, right? But yeah, don't worry about it. Again, the university is aware of that. Although you may want to think of something else, because I'm talking about when it's still old school type of letters of recommendation, when they really want you to submit like a letter, like the hard copy of the letters, or maybe you're submitting a document online. But there are also a number of universities now where the kind of letters of recommendation is quite different, where they're going to give the referees a link, and then when they open it, it's basically a number of questions, and then the referees will want to fill it in a box for each question. I think for that part, it's I think it's a bit weird if you put like English and Indonesian in there. But this is just to give you an idea that technically they can actually have the document translated. All right. The thing is, guys, again, the admissions committee take this supposedly confidential letters seriously. So in no way you want to write these letters. Trust me. In the past, I have had one advisee where he would show me both his essay and letters of recommendation. And I am not an English native speaker. My first language is 100% Bahasa Indonesia, but I can catch on those two letters, no, on those two documents, the letters of recommendation and essay, that it's like it was being written by the same person. If I can catch that as someone who is not an English native speaker, can you imagine how can they catch that as well? And we don't want that to happen. They really take it really seriously, because if they ever found out, they could reject your application right away, no matter how great your GPA score is, no matter how great your essay is, your GPA and all that. Because again, in the US, they really value your trust, right? So we don't want to violate that. We want to um, uh, respect that. Okay. So now let's take a look at what the letters look like. This is the old school one. There are still a number of universities that ask that, but just in case you got that type of letter of recommendation asked by the university. So this is what you want to have on the letter. You can have it. You can start with the university letterhead or the company letterhead, and then again the sender's name and yada yada yada. You know that the date, the recipient's name, and the letter itself, which it it looks like just like a letter. It sounds like a letter, right? The first paragraph basically is about the referees talking about him or herself, explaining how they know you. And then the second and third paragraph would be talking about your specific skill. So in this sample, it's about Jane, who has highly intelligent and has good analytical skills. And then we don't want the reader to just explaining what highly intelligent and good analytical skills are, but really elaborate on how Jane exactly has that skills, right? So giving an example of, one project or in one occasion or something like that. And then the next paragraph is, the person wants to talk about how Jane has good communication skills. This is something that is very common, right? I mean, a lot of people would write something like this. Oh yeah, Vina has good communication skills, and then normally, usually the recommenders mostly just explaining what good communication skills is. But what the reference wants to do is, like giving an example of one occasion where Tina is actually, you know, um, showing her good communication skills. Okay. And then that person can also continue talking about you on a personal level. And then you close it. The referees will close it with a um, something that I call it, like vouching for you in a way. Close it with something explaining to the universities how you are definitely going to be a great candidate for the university. Okay. So this is just like the overall of what the whole thing looks like. It doesn't have to be this long. Um, if the referees want to have just 3 paragraphs, then let's be it, right? But this is just like the overall looks of the length of the letters of recommendation. All right. And of course, be sure to send a thank you note, because I'm pretty sure they will definitely appreciate it. And get one of the EducationUSA America advisors, which is either Santika or myself, to check on your resume or CV. Not letter of recommendation, because now you know why. Okay. So good luck. And I would like to check with Santika now if we have
Hi,
questions.
Fina. So we have so many questions in the chat box, and I'm so busy typing and replying to them. And actually, most of the questions are pretty, I think, general. So I was able to, answer them in the chat box. But there are some questions that I would love you to answer, because I think you have some opinion about it or ideas better ideas than me. But before that, I'm going to give you a little break and I'm going to call out some names in Zoom. So, questions in Zoom, a lot from Maya and from Gayatri, who also emailed us. And also, let's see, we have Nabila and Maria Patricia as well. Thank you so much for joining us and being so active in the chat box. If you ask questions in the chat box and you don't think you get the answer, go check the chat box because I answered your questions there. If you have follow-up questions, let us know. We will try to answer that. But for the time being, I'm very happy that you guys join us here and are very active and interested in this. That means you are really interested in applying to US universities, which is great. And now that you're here, if you need any guidance, if you need someone to ask about this kind of things, you know where to go. There's Fina and me, and we are only just one out of so many Education USA center in Indonesia. So you are definitely in a good hands if you reach out to Education USA. All right. I will give Fina the first question that we got. I think this is kind of like an overlapping questions from Gayatri via email and also from Maria Patricia. They are trying to apply to PhD, Fina, and they're concerned like
Okay.
how much qualified they are being an Indonesian compared to other applicants from other countries who have better facilities, better project, better research, and things like that. So the question here is from Gayatri: if I don't have any teaching experience or research experience, and excluding the thesis and dissertation, can I make CV outstanding among other PhD candidates? And how to utilize your non-academic experience to attract the committee?
Okay, so that's a really good question, and I think what is interesting about this person is asking about PhD. What is interesting about it is what is interesting about PhD program is that normally you will want to contact the professor first. This is definitely something that you want to join our event next week. So you want to contact the professor first, and if the professor really interested in your proposal and vice versa, that you basically um, you know love the programs that the university is offering in that department, then usually you don't have to compete with other applicants, I would say. But then again, this is not for all PhD programs, right? Because there are a number of PhD programs where they would say it on their website that you don't have to contact any professors. And in that case, yes, you will want to compete with other applicants. So it really depends on what kind of PhD programs that you're going to do here. If you're doing the approaching the professors first and then applying, then you don't really have to worry about like make your CV super grand. But if you're going to apply when you're going to compete with other PhD applicants, I mean the thing is like I don't we at the same time we don't want you to try too hard in creating your CV to be so good, especially if you're going to apply very soon. It's different if let's say you're not going to apply until 2023 or 2022. Then you have some time now to I don't know, do some kind of new projects or maybe publishing new article or something like that to make your CV good. But if you're applying very soon, I mean, there's nothing we can do, right? I mean, you just basically will try your best in putting what you have in there, not lying for sure, but yeah, and then as again, the keyword here is holistic. So you don't want to just like focusing too much on your CV. If what you have in your CV is just, it's okay, it's not like super great, then let's focus on other documents where you can make it better, like GRE, for example, or essay. There's no excuses that you will submit your essay badly. There's no excuses because essay is definitely something that you can keep um, improve, right? So yeah.
All right, thank you, Fina. I also tell Maria, who have the similar questions, that when you mention that you are from Indonesia, you are already giving them, a plus point because you actually will contribute to the diversity of the campus. And regardless of, how you think your experience is inferior to other applicants, sometimes that's not the case in the eyes of the committee. Sometimes when you have certain experience that is localized, like Indonesia, you have this experience, this and that experience in Indonesia, and then you put that in your CV or resume, and the committee just read that, they feel like, wow, that is amazing because you know this and that in Indonesia, which maybe none of the other applicants are expert in that
Mhm.
field, but you are. So I want you to think of that perspective, and instead of worrying that you're not good enough, come to us, talk to us, Fina or me. We will try our best to convince you, like what we do right now, that believe in yourself, that you're good enough, and you can, receive some tips and tricks from Fina. Just now, she mentioned you can try to contact the professor and see if the interest is mutual. So what you want to do and what the professor is going towards, if it's the same, then you know the chances are they want you there. Okay. And okay, I'll move to the next question from Maria. So the specific question is, what are the special characteristics of Indonesian that will set us apart from other applicants, especially if you're applying for the PhD and you have limited experience of conducting proper laboratory research? What do you think, Fina?
What? That's a really hard question.
I know.
Um, um, I would say, like again, just by having us as an Indonesian applying in general, not specifically on your CV, on your resume, or the universities, it's already like, wow, Indonesia, because again, we are not from a country where the majority of them are applying to US, right? We're not from a country like China or India or Saudi or even like South Korea or even like Thailand. Indonesia is still, I would say, not a lot of us applying to US universities. So I don't think I can answer that question. I would say you probably know better than I do. But yeah, I mean, we don't want to try too hard to put new things unless you have the time to put new things in your CV. Again, if you're applying like and your deadline is like in next month, there's nothing we can do on your CV, right? I mean, it's already something that it's already happened. Probably what you can work on is when you're explaining, um, for example, like you have this one job, one position at work, and then probably you want to not just write your job description, but also your achievements, so that the reader also understands you better, the kind of work that you've done. So probably that. But yeah.
Yeah, and I have a bit things to add to that. Don't forget that if you're applying for PhD, they kind of ask for your research statement or proposal. So I think that's another point where you can try to stand out, instead of like sweating so much on your CV or resume, because most of the time,
Totally.
your CV or resume is already set for what happened in the past, but your research proposal or interest is something that you want to do in the future with the professor. So you want to try to focus in that, instead of like fixated on one document. You can also focus on your on your essay, which Fina really recommend. It's where you can show other aspect of you other than just what you do for work. Okay. And we
And
have,
and just
yeah.
one thing on that, right? This kind of questions is actually really good, but this are definitely something that I can answer more if the situation is we're talking about essay. And again, so many things write, you can put the essay to basically set you apart from other applicants. But again, like with CV, in fact, when someone shared with me their CV, usually together with the essay, I would be for probably no more than 5 minutes, maybe not even 5 minutes, 3 minutes. My focus is more, the first thing that I see would be Outlook. So now everyone who is watching this session, and then you email us and you still have the Indonesian style of the CV the Indonesians use.
Mhm.
I'm gonna review it. I'm basically going to reply back, and I'm going to give you the whole of what the CV and resume looks like, and then I'm gonna ask them first to please change it, please modify it to make this Outlook. So then, and the next time, send it to get. Once you're done, once you're done with that, send it to me again, and then I'm going to take a look at the contents. But then again, I don't really spend too long or change a lot of things the resume or CV, because you're the one who knows more about your volunteer experience, about your publications more than I do. So I mostly just look at the Outlook. But when it comes to essay, a whole different story. I'm going to really read it and make a lot of comments with it.
Yeah, and I think that's the key difference between CV and resume or and essays, because essay is, it's like screaming, "This is my story," but CV or resume is
Yeah.
like, "Look, this is what I did." So yeah, a lot of people, when you tell someone what you did, a lot of people don't really have the interest. But when you say what you want to do, a lot of people will, try to listen what you want to do, right? That's kind of like real life examples, if it can relate to you. But what Fina meant by Outlook is kind of like the template. So what I usually
Yeah.
do, and Fina usually do when we look at CV or resume, is if you have consistency, because that's very important. If you have period of dates on top and you don't in the bottom, like, that's inconsistent and you want to make it consistent. And I think that's kind of the point for CV or resume, is kind of like giving people timeline on what you did and when. Okay, we have so many questions on letter of recommendations as well, Fina. So this is from
Love
Gab.
it.
Yeah, she is from Facebook. He or she is in Facebook. Sorry. The question is what you already answered in your PPT, but I'll just clarify that it's a no. So the question is, what if the referee asked us to write the letter by ourselves and then just sign the letter? Is it acceptable? And is it possible for a referee to give negative recommendation letter? I think it's very interesting. Like, if you
Yeah, no, yeah.
you-
So the first one is definitely a no. That's basically the one questions that almost everyone is asking us about. The referees asked me to write it, and I can do it, right? And no, the answer is no, because we're talking about being ethical, and ethically speaking, it's not right. Again, the universities in the US, they really value your trust. So once you break that trust, um, they're going to just like reject your application right away. So we don't want that for sure. Um, and is it possible that the referees write something negative about you? Definitely possible. And this is one of the reasons why the universities actually view the letters as um, something confidential, that you're not supposed to know what is in it. And of course, there's a possibility that the referees might write something negative about you. But then, if we go back to the slides when I, have some list of who are the referees, and then we see in there that um, it's someone who knows you well, someone I would say that it's pretty obvious, like, so for example, if you don't have a good relationship with your direct supervisor, for example, at work, you definitely want to skip that person, right? Because you can basically probably assume that that person will talk something, not good about you. But yeah, no, it's definitely you definitely want to go to someone whom you believe that this person, will talk a good thing about you. But if it is it possible? Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Thank you so much, Fina. And I completely agree with that. So you just need to, um, try your best to get a letter of recommendation from someone you really trust and kind of support you. If they tell you to write yourself and he or she will just sign it, I don't see that as a form of great support. So I will try to find other recommender. As simple as that.
Yeah.
And another question is also kind of like an FAQ when it comes to letter of recommendation, Vina. This one is from Stephanie in Zoom. Can we use letter of recommendation that is already been used before or like last year?
Technically you can, but it's going to be different if, for example, you apply to one university with one particular letter of recommendation, and then let's say you don't get accepted, and then you want to reapply again. Definitely, we don't want to use the same letter of recommendation because although it's not common for us to know why you got rejected. But let's assume that probably it's because of the letters of recommendation. So for that specific case, you definitely want to create a new one or maybe even ask a new person. But technically, yeah, you can use the same letter of recommendation from last year or maybe even like the previous years.
Okay, thank you, Fina. So yeah, you can reuse it, but you have to be careful in kind of like the dates and everything. So, and it's
Yeah.
going to be different
Mm-hmm.
if you are sending a link. You need to inform the recommender on that because you don't want the
Correct.
recommender to miss your link. Okay. And
Right.
we have another question which is very interesting. So, when you are applying and everything, Fina, sometimes there's this like additional column and everything that you can give your details and everything. So, there's this one question in Facebook about diversity. Is it necessary that we mention that we have, kind of like disability or conditions like ADHD or autism? Is that
In the resume.
I think in the application itself or anywhere
Um.
in the application document.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. Because I know there are a number of universities where, like in the essay section, they might ask you for, um, a number of different questions, and it's quite common for graduate schools to ask you one. They call it optional essay, or diversity essay. They call it differently. But I would say if the universities that you want to apply have that type of essay, or maybe not just like in a form of essay, maybe they just, sometimes they would have like one question where if you would like to know, if you would like to tell us, other things that we have not seen from your application, you can, either upload or sometimes it's just like in an essay form, then yeah, you can definitely put that. But if there is no space in the application portal for you to explain that, I would say no. Yeah, you don't
Okay,
need to bother about that. Yeah.
thank you, Fina. And keep in
Yeah.
mind that US is reviewing every applicant holistically and kind of like in the way of non-discriminatory. That's why their CV and resume is, you don't have to include pictures, religion, gender, and everything like that. That's not necessary for your performance in the campus and your contributions as well. So don't worry
Yeah.
too much about that, and just focus yourself on, the requirements that is listed on the website. Okay. And
Yeah.
speaking of that, we have one question that is also interesting. So this one is from Herman. He wants to make sure that if he is going to enroll in 2022, we can ask for the letter of recommendation now. So can you like ask for LOR now, but you're going to use it for next year application for 2022?
Yeah. No, technically you can, but again, you may kind of like probably have a glimpse of, or maybe like know what universities that you want to apply to, because like I said earlier, some universities they might ask you different type of letters of recommendation.
There are some that are still old school, when they are still asking the referees to like write a letter with you know the letterhead and everything. In that case, yeah, we may want to modify the date when you're ready to submit that. But in terms of like the content, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can definitely use it over and over again. But yeah, if you're going to apply to universities where they are asking the letter of recommendation in a link form, that's going to be different. It's not like writing a letter. Although pretty much the content will be the same. But yeah, absolutely, you can do that.
Okay, and I think time flies. This is already 10 minutes before we close this
Oh
session,
wow.
and we still have a
Yes.
few questions, but most of them are asking where should I send my CV and resume for I assume for us to review. So I already leave my email for Wulida because she asked it first, but there are others who ask as well, and I will provide our sender email so you can email us your CV or resume in Word document and attach it and send it to our email, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Should
Yeah.
to have a Zoom one-on-one to kind of review your CV or resume and answer any questions that you may have. Okay, and
Yeah, and just a heads up. Normally, and you don't have to do this, but normally when people want us to take a look at your resume, usually it's together with your essay. You don't have to do that. I mean, if you just want to go to Zoom for on a CV or resume review, that's okay too. But at this point, it's usually quick. If you want kind of also provide your essay, not just because it's my favorite part of the advising session, but yeah, you can definitely do that as well as your essay. Which again, we're going to have the event next week, same day, same time. Yeah.
all right. So last questions from, I think, because this is important. This is from Sanditya. So his question is let's see. Which is better, to have a referees who can validate what we wrote on our essay, or referees who can tell our contribution other than those on essay? I think I heard this from you back then, Fina, when you mentioned we need letter of recommendations to show the committee that we have other aspects. So show other aspect than your essay and your CV or resume. So that's why it's a separate document as well. So yeah, your recommender is not meant to kind of validate what you wrote in your essay, but to show that, look, this person is like this and like that in this academic setting or in this work setting. That's what I think. But Tina, do you
Yeah.
have additional on that?
Yeah. No. And this is definitely a good question. Thank you for asking that. This is like one of the reasons why you want to explain to the referees what you want to do with your study plan, because then yeah, the referees may or may not mention your goal in the reference in the letter of recommendation, um, which yeah, I think that would be really good. So if you can do that, that would be great.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. So, okay, we only have 5 minutes left, and I'm going to answer real quick on Maya, who asked, which website do you recommend to write the CV or resume? So, you can find this US template from US university websites, as simple as US resume or CV template, and then you can type in the US university as well. So, sometimes they will pop up and giving you kind of like a sample.
Yeah, and the keyword is just make sure you put US and university when you googling it.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that you're using the US template.
Okay, and I realize Maya is really, really excited to plan her studies to US. So I really recommend you to kind of
Hey.
email us and talk with us in Zoom one on one. So you can, have a buffet of questions, and we don't really have a
Yeah.
limit on the advising session, and everything that we do for you is free. All right, so before I close this amazing event tonight, I will read again on what we can give to you in the advising session, so we can help you review your CV, resume, and essay. If you have any questions on your application or kind of like where to start, essay is important because sometimes you just need someone to talk to, or you don't want to feel alone that you're planning this whole thing, this whole big thing, right? If you just join us in the middle, you probably missed what Fina have mentioned in the beginning, that we do one-on-one Zoom advising. The link is I will share it in the Zoom chat box, but you can write this down. The Zoom meeting ID is 276 sorry 276 124 396, or you can email us at jakarta.atamerica@educationusa.org. All right, without further ado, I will give it back to the Ad America team.
All right, thank you so much, Kafina and Kasantika. That was a very insightful session. We'll see you again very soon. Now, the rest of you, please don't go anywhere because I have the name of the winner for our social media quiz today. Earlier in this event, I asked you guys, what percentage of the American population has a postgraduate degree? And the right answer is C, 13%. Okay, now, the winner for today is @Bintang PD from Instagram. Congratulations, Bintang. Now, you may be wondering, how can I develop an awesome idea for a place like this? Easy. You can go to our website at www.atamerica.or.id, click Create an Event, and collaborate with us. All proposals coming to us will be reviewed, and your event might be featured here soon. And while you're on our website, feel free to subscribe to our newsletters for weekly event updates, for weekly event updates sent straight to your inbox. All right, everybody, I think that wraps up this episode. It has been fun, but unfortunately, we have to say goodbye for now. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, @ATAmerica for weekly event updates, fun content, and so much more. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. All right, everybody, once again, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again in our next program. Bye!